And welcome, MAGA Patriots, to the show where we talk MAGA and always put America first. I'm your host of Talkin MAGA, MAGA Mike, and I want to apologize for not being around for a few weeks. I was traveling for business, moved offices. I don't know if you noticed the new office, but hopefully it's a little easier to watch. But I wanted to get this episode out as a follow-up to the episode that we did last month on the COVID scam and the happenings around that episode and what has happened, to the podcast and the video of that episode. So what happened to my video from the podcast last month? So just like normal, what I did was I produced it, I edited it, I get it out there, I finalize it, I post it on YouTube, I put a link on Twitter, whatnot. Starting to get some good feedback, starting to get some views, starting to get some traction and whatnot. I'm like, oh, people really appreciated the fact-based, document-based episode that I did last month, and I'm sure you've seen it if you're watching this podcast. So a day or so goes by, and all of a sudden I get an email from the moderation team at YouTube saying that my video has been taken down because it has violated COVID misinformation. Misinformation it violated, and they've taken my video down. But they tell me this is not a strike on my YouTube channel. It's just a warning, a shot across the bow to say, hey, plebe, stay in line. Don't go against the government narrative ever, or you will be punished. So these communist statist scumbags, and that's what they are. These people will do anything to hold on to their narrative, their despicable COVID lie, among other things, but we'll focus on COVID today. But anything that goes against their approved narrative, they cannot handle the truth. They can't handle debate, these people. I tell my family and friends all the time, you argue with a leftist with facts and they go running. They scream that they'll try to censor you, they'll try to silence you, and if that fails, racist, all the name calling, fascist, everything in the book comes out with these scumbags. Everything, okay? So I'm going to show you just clips of the episode last week. If you want to watch it again, of course, I posted it on Rumble because I'm pretty much going to take my YouTube channel down. But I'm going to show it to you on my website, which you could find all of my episodes and content on magamike.com. So just head over there. I'm going to show you clips of that to show you exactly what these scumbags found was misinformation. So let's head over to the video. Okay, guys, just heading over to my website, magamike.com. I want to show you exactly what YouTube found that they couldn't handle, that they censored. They couldn't bear the fact that anybody with a guy with a few thousand people following him could hear his opinion, his fact-based, document-based analysis of the COVID situation. So again, you go to my website, magamike.com, just click here to see all the videos, and you can see all of my content here, okay? So obviously here is the COVID episode now that is on Rumble. Okay, I want to show that to you. And I leave the box of where the YouTube video that had the episode is because I want to remind people what communist, fascist scumbags they are. And always remember, guys, everything that they accuse us of, they are, okay? They cannot handle debate. They cannot handle the truth. They cannot handle a rational, fact-based argument. That's why they always run. That's why they always try to silence us, okay? So here's the episode, and you can see here, this is just the main page where I'm talking about a study from the Annals of Internal Medicine on masks. And the whole episode was based upon documents and facts. Not my opinion, of course I gave that, but of course the whole episode was based on the entire COVID scamdemic. And here I talk about the actual parts of the CARES Act that went into effect, that was passed by Congress, that gave hospitals and doctors financial incentive. So I linked to the CARES Act and I talked in detail about their add-on payment system, okay, that incentivized and enriched everybody in the medical profession during the scamdemic. Okay, so I went into detail about the CARES Act. Here, I talked about again how they got their payments, the instructions that they got from the NHS to get these payments for COVID cases, ventilators, COVID deaths, and whatnot. I went into detail about this stuff. I talked about how it was even fact-checked by USA Today and other leftist outlet rags to show that it was actually true, okay? And then I went into the studies. I linked to 3 to 4, I think to 5, I have like 12 studies on the mask. This one from the Annals of Internal Medicine, that masks weren't effective. The National Academies of Sciences about masks are useless, okay? So you can see the episode was chock full of data, okay? And Naomi Wolf and Alex Berenson talked about that, whatnot. So the whole episode was based, and it had links to actual documents during this scamdemic. And this is what YouTube found to be misinformation. This is what YouTube said violated their terms of service. Why? Not because it wasn't true. I showed actual documents. I brought receipts. I had the actual proof in the podcast, in the comments. I linked to everything in the comments, where these studies can be found, where you could read the CARES Act, everything. What could that have possibly done to the narrative, okay? Would have been to expose it. And that's why they couldn't have it. That's why they censored it. And that's why they're communist fascist scumbags. And that's why we will never shut up. We will always keep going on this. And I'm going to show you exactly more of the craziness with the media and how the media reacted to all of this stuff, especially when it comes to the vax. So let's get into that now. So I know we talked a lot in the podcast last week and whatnot, and obviously subsequent videos in my Twitter feed about the media's narrative to cover up the scamdemic in the beginning, to cover up the fact that the lockdowns were useless and harmful, the fact that masks did nothing, okay, the fact that, you know, the government taking money, inflating cases and death counts, all perpetuated this scam, okay, and that's all documented proof, and everybody should know about it, wake up to that fact, and realize that the whole impetus, the whole sorry saga in this country's history was based on a web of lies, okay, perpetuated and pushed by the medical, big pharma, all the medical people that were enriching themselves on it, and pushed to the hilt by the enemies of the state, the scumbag leftist media, state-run media, okay? So I really want to go forward and really talk about the thing that is really continuing being perpetuated, the lie, and it's the vaccine, and the fact that people are still getting this vaccine, and the medical professional and the governments around the world and in this country, the health facilities, are still pushing this poisonous jab that is ineffective and actually harmful to people, okay? So I really want to get into the jab and how the media is covering up for the ineffectiveness and harmfulness that this thing is causing to a lot of people around the world, and specifically athletes. So that's what we're going to get into right now. Okay, I'm going to show you a video that's going to really crystallize what I'm talking about, and the media and the people in general in this country and the world's refusal, absolute refusal to accept what's as plain as day right in front of their face. This is an MSDNC typical state-run media, flaky Yasmin Vasugian, I think her name is, doesn't matter. She's useless, and she's just one of the cogs in the state-run media wheel over there. So this woman, I think she's in her mid-30s, got a couple of kids. As you can see in the video, she's going to tell you she runs 7 miles, 3-4 days a week, and she basically had a heart issue around the Christmas and New Year holiday, and she was out for a month. But I want to show you this video to show you the amazing resistance to accept the truth that is right, as clear as the nose on this broad's face. So let's watch some of this video of her.
I know from my Twitter feed that many of you have wondered why I have been off the air for a little while. Well, I have been dealing with a little bit of a health scare. On December 20th, I began to feel chest pains, and they waxed and waned over a period of 10 days. I wasn't quite sure what to make of it, but as they continued to get worse, I started to think something was actually wrong. It was December 30th when I finally went to an urgent care and was told I had reflux. I didn't really buy it, but I was relieved it wasn't my heart. My body, though, was pretty certain not to believe the reflux. The next day, on December 30th,
Okay, so she's not believing the reflux. Okay, so she's actually trying to like figure out what's wrong with her. Okay, but let her go on and let's see the discovery that she actually makes, what's causing her her chest pains.
I woke up with severe pains both in my chest and in my left shoulder, and it was like a tightening in my chest when I took deep breaths. That got worse when I was laying flat. I knew enough at that moment to understand that it could mean, could is the key word here, that I was having a heart attack, especially because it was happening in the left part of my shoulder. I want to remind you, I run 7 miles 3 to 4 times a week, or I did. I do yoga. I don't eat meat. I don't smoke. I drink occasionally, not right now, though, because my doctor tells me I can't. Aside from probably not getting enough sleep and working too much, I'm a pretty healthy person. But on that day, I was anything but. My husband drove me to the emergency room, and from there, the nightmare that has been my January began. I was diagnosed with pericarditis, inflammation of the lining of my heart, brought on by a virus, a literal common cold.
Okay. There's a lot to unpack there. All right. This woman, mid-30s, kids, runs, good health, blah, 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 blah. She basically is having mild heart attack. Okay. And the doctor says that it's caused by the inflammation of her heart wall. Okay. Okay. What caused that? Out of the blue? Have you not seen tons of marathon and soccer players collapsing from this jab? Okay, that is causing pericarditis and myocarditis. But no, heaven behold, what does she say it's caused by? A cold. The cold caused her heart to blow up like a balloon. Amazing that. We got to tell people, don't get a cold or your heart could be a volleyball. So let's continue with this woman and see exactly the last, 30, 40 seconds of this. It's amazing. You got to watch.
I also had fluid around my heart that had to be drained or else it could hinder the beating of my heart. I was hospitalized for 4 nights and transferred from a local hospital to NYU Langone here in New York City. On January 4th, I was finally discharged after doctors drained the fluid around my heart, and I bounced out of the hospital. I couldn't get out of there fast enough with the hopes I was on the mend. But that was not the end. 3 days later, I was readmitted when I felt a flutter in my heart, like a butterfly. It was inside my chest. They determined I had developed myocarditis, inflammation of the actual heart now, the heart muscle. I remember being shepherded through the emergency room and wondering, is this it? It wasn't, thank God. Instead, I spent 5 more days in the hospital where they ran a battery of tests, adjusted my meds, and made sure nothing else was.
Okay. I mean, the fact that this woman has myocarditis at 37 years old, I'm sure, in fact, I know for a fact, I looked at her Twitter feed, jab to the eyeballs, probably 5 or 6 boosters up, okay? Has heart problems, is a runner, okay? No concept, no even pause and say, hey, what has changed in the last 2 years that I developed myocarditis? The fact that my heart is now the size of my head. Who knows? Could it be the 5 foreign substances that you injected into your body? I mean, you could see, like, the gun to her head. Yes, it was caused by a cold. I have myocarditis, and I don't know how it got there. It's almost like, blink, Yasmin, if you want help, if you want somebody to tell you, yes, it's from the jabs, you idiot. Okay, you freaking people in the world, wake up. I'm going to show you a video of soccer players and runners and whatnot collapsing across the world from this jab because their hearts are expanding because of this mRNA protein that's being injected into the system that has nothing to do with helping a respiratory virus. Let's get that clear right now. But there's not a clue that this woman, a sentence that says, you know what, it could be from the jab, and all this stuff. Nothing. The narrative, they would rather die than expose this narrative. That's what I've come to the conclusion. They don't care if they die, but they do care if they're not invited to the cocktail parties at MSDNC and CNN next week. That's what they do care about. They care about the narrative, they care about their position, they care about their money, and they care about their power more than their life. That's what I'm convinced about. So to ram this point home even further, unless you've been living under a rock the last month or so, you've heard about the Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin, who in the middle of Monday Night Football back in December collapsed after a routine play out of nowhere. 24 years old, perfectly healthy, elite athlete. Safeties and cornerbacks have to be the fastest, quickest, most agile players on the field. And he clearly was one of them. Absolutely just for no good reason collapsed for no good reason. If you haven't seen it, here it is. Typical play, guy's running, he takes it, a glancing blow, fine, he gets up, normal play, and collapses like a bag of stones. Obviously, you guys have seen this, it's horrible. We want to obviously pray for his full recovery, but that is not what the situation is about. It's about what caused Damar Hamlin and thousands of other soccer players, marathon runners, high schoolers, athletes around the world to collapse like that, to develop myocarditis and sometimes die, sometimes have massive heart attacks. Hamlin was obviously revived on the field. They say he was dead for 9 minutes, CPR administered, and thank God he was brought back, and hopefully he'll live a productive life. We have no idea if he's going to play football again, but my sense is probably no. But there's no pause. If you watched that game, and I did, once it was on, I watched it. I watched all the media coverage after it for days and weeks, his doctors, his family. No curiosity, no pause to say, hey, what is causing all of these athletes and Damar to have collapsed in the prime of their physical life for no good reason? Now, you'll hear people say, oh, it was commotion cordis, if you get hit to the right beat and whatnot. Are you kidding me? Do you know how many football games and soccer games and hockey and all these things where they're getting hit constantly? I have been watching football since I've been 7 years old. So 47 years. I have never seen that until these jabs were administered and causing athletes' hearts to blow up like volleyballs. I have never seen it. But if you watch the media coverage, if you watch the doctors, nobody even asks, say, could this have been caused by the fact that you have injected yourself 5 times with a foreign spike protein substance that has nothing to do with stopping a virus? But we don't know what it does to people. I think now we know that it causes inflammation of the heart. But you watch the broad on MSDNC, you watch this dude collapse, you watch hundreds of dudes. I'm going to show you a video now of a compilation of these people, because in case you haven't seen it, you have to watch this for yourself to believe it and really ask yourself, what is going on? So to ram this point home that it's just not Damar Hamlin that we saw here, or, the MSDNC broad who just won't admit it. This has been happening since the jabs have been rolled out. You'll never see this video on YouTube because they would deem it, misinformation and whatnot. But of course it's on Rumble, and this guy, Sunfellow, on COVID, has put together this remarkable video. I'm not going to say it's a great video because it shows horrific things happening to athletes across this country. So I want to play it while we talk about it. So this is from March 21 to June of last year. The average age of athletes, they call it these 1,000 athletes dying over this period of time, is 23 years old. We're killing our children, our young adults. We're killing because of this jab. And nobody wants to talk about it. It's amazing. Here, high school player dies after first practice. 27-year-old dies of heart failure, collapses. These are athletes. Charleston Southern freshman passes away. Football player in March of 20. Emmanuel Outry dies, collapses March of 20. Look at this. Volleyball player, 33, collapses during match, dies. Charles Ballou, soccer player during Africa Cups, dies in March. Okay. My heart stopped for 26 minutes. The cricket guy, David Wakefield, his story. This another striker from Madrid collapses in training. These are elite athletes. Okay. This video, guys, look at this. It is an hour and 24 minutes long. And they went through the trouble of documenting every one of these deaths since this poison jab has been rolled out. Okay. And it just goes on, and tragedy after tragedy that the media, see no evil, hear no evil. They just have their heads in the sand. They won't talk about it. Nobody will address it. And not only do they not address it, they're still pushing this shit on everybody. On kids. You see school districts mandating it for kids, high schools mandating it for kids to play sports, that you're fully vaxxed, okay? I mean, it's how much more evidence do we need to see before we say, hey, we got to do a study on what is causing these heart problems among all of these young people in this country and around the world. This goes on for an hour and a half, guys. An hour and a half, and nobody wants to discuss it. It is not only tragic, it is not only sad, it is criminal, okay, of what is going on. And the media is the one that could stop this today if they actually did their job, but they don't care. They don't care. This thing is going to go on. I'm 2 minutes into an hour, 24 minutes. It goes on and on and on. Kids, 25, 15-year-olds, mourns the loss of a teacher, a school teacher. Look at this kid. This kid's 12 years old. We're we're killing 12-year-old kids, and nobody cares. Nobody cares. It is amazing. I am infuriated. I was on Ed Henry's show on Real America's Voice the other day, and I told him and Karen that this COVID thing, specifically the vax thing, you can get over the lockdowns and the masks. That doesn't kill people, although it destroys their businesses and whatnot. But this thing, this vax that is causing thousands, and this is just the ones that made the news. Can you imagine the hundreds of thousands of people that were affected that didn't, and these are athletes. So this vax is being caused myocarditis in athletes, and it's causing them to really have heart attacks. How many people are walking the streets, regular people that are not athletes, that their hearts are shot? They're enlarged, but because they're not athletes, they're not knowing this. Okay? This is not only tragic, I said, but criminal. And you got to watch this video. I'm going to link to it below. I'm scrolling from 39 minutes. This goes on for an hour and a half. It is so sad. So sad. 33, 15-year-olds. These are our children, our young athletes, our young adults that we forced, that we shamed, that we coerced into getting this jab. Enough is enough. We have to stop this insanity now, and to make sure it never happens again. But they're not. They're keeping going forward. And the guys like me and a couple of friends of mine and great people on social media and whatnot, and Tucker knows what is going on, and the people that I follow online. But very few things to be done about it, because the people in power do not care. So you got to watch this video and get angry like me, so we can all stop this insanity right now. And again, guys, apologies for getting so fired up, but this thing, like I said earlier, has just enraged me like nothing more in my lifetime. The whole COVID scam, topped off with the crown jewel of the mandatory jab that, as we see, has killed, hundreds of thousands, and who knows how many more have a ticking time bomb inside of them. And I realize why a lot of people don't want to talk about this. One of my friends that I was golfing with last week said, obviously he's been vaxxed and whatnot, but he said to me, he goes, Mike, the reason people don't want to talk to you about this, they may agree with you, but they're all vaxxed. 85% of the country has this poison inside of them. Okay. So it's like, see no evil, hear no evil. If I don't know about it, it can't hurt me. And I get that. And I get that, but we have to, this is such an egregious offense on humanity that we have to expose this and figure out, is there some sort of detox to get this out of people's system? But the first part, before we even get into how we fix it, is we have to acknowledge that it was a mistake, a criminal, malicious intent mistake to enrich themselves and to create more power and influence for themselves. We have to acknowledge that as a society. We have to say this was a tragic mistake, and it was done with could have been, they could get away and say, oh, we were just trying to be careful, whatnot, even though we know the powers that be that really push this, big government, big pharma, big corporations, had no good intentions with this. They knew their jab didn't work. They knew, Deborah Birx, the scarf lady, was on Neil Cavuto last month. I didn't show the clip, but she admitted, she goes, we knew these vaccines weren't going to stop transmission and weren't going to be that effective. They knew. But so why did they continue it? Because they wanted the power, the influence, the wealth, everything that came with it. Okay. And regular day people that I could get to and explain this situation, they are scared for themselves, for their family members, for their children, that they all vax to the eyeballs, because they know that this jab, we just saw that video. Watch that video. I'll link to it below, the podcast and the video, that we cannot have this continue. There has to be a reckoning of these people and an admission that this thing was wrong. This thing was not the thing that we should have been done on so many levels. It should have been exposed. And I know people didn't have the courage to stand up during it. And some people are starting to get that courage to say, this wasn't the right thing to do. This wasn't the right thing to mandate this vaccine. And clearly now we know it didn't work. It doesn't work. It will not work, but it's dangerous. Okay. So they only win, in closing, they only win if we're silent, if we're cowed, but we will never be cowed anymore. We have the tools to communicate with people the truth. We have the courage of great patriots to lead the fight, to say, get behind me and we will stop this stuff. So if just a handful of people I'm able to influence and get behind me, those are the people they fear. Those are the people they want silenced. That's why they silenced me with my last video. But they will never silence the patriots of this country that want to stand for truth and justice for these tyrants. So again, in closing, stay in the fight, never be cowed, scream it from the rooftops what we believe in. And what do we believe in? Truth, liberty, freedom, the American way of life. Nothing to be ashamed of, people. So stand with me, stand with great patriots in this country, to expose the tyrants of this country and the world, to make sure that this stuff, specifically this vaccine stuff, never happens again, and we protect everybody, including our most vulnerable. So again, in closing, this is MAGA Mike. Until next time, when we're talking MAGA, MAGA on Patriots.